Alright, we ended up getting a little bit of, actually finished up chisel plowing Friday night in the rain. We ended up only getting a tenth. I talked to a buddy who farms just south of here in Indiana. He said south of him they got between, or he heard they got between 4 and 5. And who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody else yesterday, and apparently up north of here got 2 to 3. So we were right in the middle that really didn't get shit, which is kind of the same thing that started happening last year. Now I look at the forecast and we ain't got rain. There's not rain in the forecast for the foreseeable future, which is neat. Frankly, I'd rather see a little bit of rain every once in a while, but anyhow. So probably honestly could have went yesterday, but it was, I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable. I probably would have been alright, but I was like, okay, we'll give it a day. I have stuff to do anyway, so I got my truck serviced and got the lawn mowed and got this thing switched back over to the finisher, got my windows cleaned up, and we did let some air out of the tires. I took the inners from 20 down to 15. And I took the duals from 15 down to 12. So hopefully it rides a little better and doesn't slip as bad. I mean, it wasn't slipping terrible, but it was slipping enough. And it was riding about like a D8 cat. So I think, because I inflated the inners to what the manual stated, and the manual did not actually give tire inflation specifications for duals. So I think they were a little hard. I could see 20 pounds for singles, but not for duals. Excuse me. And I found out that this thing is indeed transferring 80/90 from the rear end into the hydraulics. So pretty sure that's an indicator that we got a leak in the oil cooler circulation pump. It is doing it very slowly, so it's not like I have to pull it off the line right now, and I really can't afford to pull it off the line right now anyhow. But tomorrow, I got all my part numbers written down. First I'm going to call Maybaugh and see if I can talk to Brad and see if we're thinking along the right line. That oil cooler circulation pump is in the rear end, and that is literally the only place we can think of where 80/90 from the rear gear case and hydraulic oil can cross paths at all. So that's got to be it, but just talk to Brad and confirm it, and then get my parts ordered. That way I got all the parts, and then the next rain day we have, if we get another one, can tear that apart. Because it all just, you take the hydraulic pump off with 2 bolts. Obviously you got to drain the hydraulic reservoir, unhook the pump, take the pump off, and then unbolt the pump mount flange, and the whole pump drive shaft, support housing, all that crap comes out as one piece out the side of the transmission, and the oil circulation pump is part of that housing, so it's real easy to get to. Hopefully, I mean, there should be enough room to get it all out the side, because it's only, you know, half the width of the transmission case. So there should be plenty of room to get it out the side with the wheel on, and then as long as there's no issues and extremely screwed up parts, which there shouldn't be. I say that, and then we're gonna run into something bad, but probably shouldn't be much more than like a 3-4 hour job. While I'm in there, I'm gonna put new bearings in it and the whole 9 yards, and just get it done in one shot and be done with it. So that's why I gotta laugh. People keep saying I need to paint this thing. It's like, you guys need to get your priorities straight. She's not even mechanically sound yet, and you're worried about a paint job. A very expensive paint job. So anyhow, I've got at least 3 fields now. Basically, I was looking at how I ended up splitting my hybrids up, and basically all of the small fields I got are one hybrid, which is the one that's in the planter right now, and then the 40 at my uncle's, and then down on the muck are another hybrid. So rather than switching hybrids and going to my uncle's and having to clean the planter out, to turn around and clean the planter out, to go back to this hybrid, to turn around and clean the planter out and go back to the other hybrid, because the muck is going to be another week or 2 out, just to get free, or just to get clear of any potential late frost, because that's the big problem down there, because that's all low ground, so it doesn't take much to get a frost down there. Which was it was 2 years ago we had a late frost, and I lost a bunch of corn down, well, not a bunch, I lost like 1.5 acres of corn down there, because it got frostbit in like the last week of May, first week of June. It was a really late frost. But so rather than doing a bunch of switching back and forth in the planter, it all needs done. So we're gonna get these small fields knocked out, so that I don't have to keep switching the planter around. So I've got at least 3 fields I want to get done today. We'll see where we're at for time. Actually, well, there's 3 fields that are close, and then I got one down in Indiana that I got to get with a 1955 in the field cultivator, because I don't like dragging this thing down there, because I've had too many close calls with it because the roads are so damn narrow. So anyway, we'll see where we end up. up a couple rocks. It's always right here. I swear to God, this hill grows rocks. They're always right here. Tell you what, letting the air out of them tires made a huge difference. Not slipping nearly as bad, and it rides a crap ton better. And it honestly didn't even squat the tires that much harder. It did lower the tractor a little bit because I could feel it moving when I was letting the air out, but it must not have been much. Ground's laying down real nice. It's just this wet spot right here. It's still a little damp, but you're not gonna get it to dry out unless you break it open. That's just the way some of these spots are. They get a crust on top of them, and then they just quit shedding moisture. But the minute you bust that crust up, they'll dry right out. You can, I mean, I say damp, we're not even saying it's not like it's wet, it's just a little sticky on top. This one of them fields has got the swale in the middle of it. If you had a place to go with it, one tile strung right down the center of that swale would take care of basically every wet spot this field has, but there's nowhere to go with the tile. Here, noticed I got a disc gang not turning, wouldn't you know? Picked up an Indian sexstone, a fucking rock. Come on. Here, come here. This field really, I mean, all the rocks here in this field are like this size or bigger. If you came over here and picked up some of these rocks and turned around and sold them, you could probably make a pretty decent little chunk of change, because with all the Chicago people we got around here, they like buying rocks like this for landscaping and crap like that. Big river rock like this and flagstone, which for those that don't know what flagstone is, it's flat rocks. I'm sure that there is a specific kind of geologic material that is specifically flagstone, but around here anything that's a flat rock we call flagstone. If it wasn't for the fact that I would want to get it planted and I had help, I'd bring the Super 55 in a little trailer over here and pick up some of them rocks and
throw them on Facebook Marketplace, or have Shelly throw them on Facebook Marketplace and see what I can get out of them. But we ain't got time for that. We need to get corn in the ground. So anyhow, I'm done here, so I just got to get out to the edge of the field and fold up, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, let's see how this spring plow ground works down. Do you remember how many rains this has had on it since we came over and chiseled it? got a slight malfunction at the junction. I was making my last turn along the back and I started smelling hydraulic oil, but I couldn't see anything leaking on the ground. It's like, that's weird. So I was coming up here anyway, so I drove up here to the field entrance and got out to check, and it's like, oh. So hopefully it's just a line slipped off the oil cooler, hopefully. But it's most definitely hydraulic oil. Well, I couldn't get lucky enough for it to be a hose. So this is an inherent problem on the white four-wheel drives. I do not know if they ever changed the design of the, I mean, I know they changed oil coolers because I think they made them bigger on the, like the 210s and stuff. I think they got taller, but I'm not sure they physically changed the design any, and this is an inherent problem on these things. The top bracket maybe, but for sure the bottom bracket, these angle brackets were never soldered to the tubes. Basically, when they put the cooler together and drew the mandrel through to tighten everything up, they were assembled onto the tubes, so they were really just kind of a press fit. And after you get some age on them, especially with them 3208s behind them and all the vibration, it seems like it's more the bottom than the top, but these bottom brackets come loose, and then they just sit there and you get that little vibration, and then they wear holes. And somewhere this wore a hole in one of these tubes. If I remember right, when it was we started it up to see where the leak was, and I think it was coming off of this arch right here, so it's got to be one of them tubes. Has a pretty significant hole wore in it. It's probably that guy right there. So I couldn't even, it wasn't even such a thing where I'd have been able to limp the tractor home. It was that bad. So, but luckily we had right around the corner a spare one. So hopefully this turns out okay. Okay, oil cooler checked out fine. Although this one has the same issue that the one we just took off of it has, where that bottom bracket is loose. So this one's going to be not a matter of if it wears a hole, but when. And unfortunately, without taking all the solder joints apart and doing a bunch of work to it, there's not a whole lot you can do about it, at least in a timely fashion, to get back in the field. So we put it on there, we're going to run it. And Dad is going to look through some of his suppliers and see if he can get a modern, not necessarily replacement, because obviously you're not going to get a direct, those oil coolers are no longer available through Agco, by the way. That's how this whole thing started. But see if, I believe the brand that he deals with is called Thermal Transfer, is what he said. But he is going to look and see if he can get an oil cooler that close to dimensionally will replace that, but it'll be a more modern design with actual like bulkheads on either side of it, and the ones that he gets, either you can order with either pipe thread or O-ring boss bungs in top and bottom, so I can get rid of the push-on hose and hose clamps and get actual fittings on there so that we don't have to worry about leaks anymore. And it'll just be a matter of making some different brackets to mount it in the grill where that one currently is. It's probably still dripping oil. Yep. There's so much oil in that, sitting in that skid pan, it's not funny. So what I'm gonna have to do, which I can't really do a whole lot more, that little escapade cost me about 2.5 hours of running by the time we got all said and done, So rather than, I was going to get the 1955, I'd hook it up and go down to Indiana and try to get that little field fit, and then all my ground for this hybrid will be fit. But by the time I get done here, get back to the house, it's probably going to be pushing 4:30, 5 o'clock. I don't even know what time it is now. Yeah, it's 3 o'clock now. So rather than doing that, what I'm going to do, I got to get this thing cleaned up because the radiator is oil soaked and obviously can't keep running it like that, because it's going to fill up with dust and plug the radiator. Not to mention the fact that the skid pan's full of oil. So rather than trying to fit more ground, I'm going to run this thing home. We'll get the nose all cleaned up, get the radiator cleaned out, and I am going to, I got a seat sensor to replace on the planter, which that ain't going to take long at all. That's an easy job, but I'll get that seat sensor replaced and then get the planter pre-filled with seed and fertilizer, so that tomorrow when I get off of work, all I gotta do is hit the ground running. Because I don't really want to start planting today, because the wet spots that I've had to work through, although they're not wet, it'd really be nice to have some dry time on them, so that, because the problem you run into with planting through wet spots like that, where the ground is still wet enough that it can potentially compact from the seed disc, is you'll get sidewall compaction in the seed trench, which if I had a set of spike closing wheels on it, wouldn't be a problem, which that's one of the things I want to change on it, is get spike closing wheels. But with just the regular rubber closing wheels like what it currently has, like I say, you'll potentially have sidewall compaction in the seed trench, and that's no way, no. So that's why I'm going to give it 24 hours before I go plant it. Give that top few inches a little time to dry out, so we don't got to worry about sidewall compaction when we're planting. Plus, when everything's said and done, I got to go over to Shelly's mom's house for what they're doing. I think over there for Mother's Day, because Shelly's mom just had can't remember what the name of the surgery is. Basically, she had cancer in this area here, so they had to do the surgery where they cut both of them off. I think that was on Tuesday. So I guess she's taking it okay, but I'm not sure that there's any movement actually ever Okay, that gets me enough to get some planting done this week, or well, early this week. It's probably only going to be about, I can probably have it all done in 2 days ish, I would think. I doubt it's going to take me 3, but it's a start. So, but I got to get home and get some stuff done and get a hold of, or get with Shelly and figure out what time we got to go do that. So I guess with that being said, that's it for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one.